1812 was the year they killed Tartarian of every major Tartarian city: Moscow, St. Petersburg, New York, Philadelphia. In South America, the earthquake of Caracas destroyed the city on March 26, 1812. And then the fires came. City after city: Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kazan, Smolensk, simultaneously or in rapid succession. Each fire described with the same impossible characteristics: too hot, too fast, too complete, stone melting, metal flowing like water. In Asia, records show catastrophic fires across major cities: Delhi, Calcutta, Manila, all in 1812 or 1813, all described with the same impossible intensity. This wasn't regional. A polite way of saying civilization stopped, completely, at exactly the same moment. And when it started again, it was different, simpler, smaller, as if something had reset everything. But it's not just Russia. It's the remnant, the survivors, the children of catastrophe, who forgot their own history, because someone made sure we would forget. And beneath the rubble, we find foundations, magnificent foundations, of buildings far greater than what now stands, as if we are rebuilding poorly on the bones of giants. I found a French military report, buried in archives, describing what Napoleon's scouts found as they advanced into Russia. Empty cities, perfectly intact but abandoned. Buildings undamaged. Food still on tables. Possessions left behind, as if entire populations had simply vanished. The report called it the Great Silence. Mile after mile of civilization with no one living in it. That's not war. That's evacuation. Mass evacuation before something catastrophic. And then the fires came. City after city: Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kazan, Smolensk, simultaneously or in rapid succession. Each fire described with the same impossible characteristics: too hot, too fast, too complete, stone melting, metal flowing like water, destruction so absolute that in some cities nothing remained but glass and ash. Glass. Let me explain something about glass. Normal fires don't create glass. To turn sand and stone into glass requires temperatures above 1,400 degrees Celsius, sustained temperatures.
This is not a Navy or a U.S. government expedition. This boat that went to Antarctica for the first expedition is not Navy or anything like that. This is a 100% Masonic expedition. Bird talks thoroughly in this book about how he had to raise funding from all of his friends, from guys, fellow Freemasons like Henry Ford And it was all Masons who funded this first expedition. And it is no exaggeration to say that the first Antarctic expedition from the United States, this one right here, is through and through a Masonic expedition. And not only the first one, the second one as well. The second Antarctic expedition in 1934, when they built Little America 2, as discussed in this book right here, Discovery. This base right here, Little America, which they built in the Bay of Whales by digging down into the ice.
February 18th, 1947, Admiral Byrd states in a letter postmarked from Washington, D.C., that he is preparing to leave for Antarctica on the USS Philippine Sea. January 24th, 1947, he is at the Summer Gate, also known as the Circle Gate. In his diary, February 19th, 1947, he is at the North Pole. February 18th, 1947, he is in Washington, D.C., stating his intentions to leave for Antarctica and lead Operation High Jump. Some of these cities had to be dug out. They had been buried. Some of these cities just had to be dusted off a little. Amarillo, Texas, 1912, with streetcars powered by the etheric energy from the atmosphere. Towns were different back then. The ghost towns you hear of, the brick ghost towns. Empty for whatever reason, but still with the infrastructure to sustain a civilization. But first you would have to populate that, or repopulate that, with the powers that be that powered them back then created a society that was based on the back of children from the orphan trains. The first train into Lubbock, Texas in 1909 was an orphan train with anywhere between 57 and 88 children, aged 3 to 13, to be taken to the local lodge for adoption. The children on that one orphan train made up Lubbock's population by 8%. Within 15 years, the population was well over 20,000. That is just one train in one city in one day, and they did it for 75 years.
That's why they removed all of the old world buildings, because they would heal people. Because the geometrical shapes and patterns that made up these buildings had high frequencies, unlike the buildings today, which are just square and rectangular, which do not hold a frequency. And if you look at the old world buildings, they all have antennas on. These were loaded with brass balls comprised of mercury at the tops of buildings, because they were where the frequency and atmospherical energy, or the ether, was gathered, and they would then connect that to a copper wire which would flow down the building, where people would then gather in the 1800s. So then that energy would have been transferred into that room full of people, which would have then instantaneously healed them through the frequency. And it's interesting because all of the old world buildings don't have flat ceilings, because a square is the simplest shape and has the lowest frequency. That's exactly why there was no square buildings back then, because they knew the more complex the geometrical architecture, the higher the frequency. So whenever people walked into that building, their frequency would instantaneously boost. And we know the lower the frequency somebody is, the weaker they are. And again, just like linen sheets, copper bottles and copper bracelets, this was Tartarian technology. They knew the power of frequency. But then the pharmaceutical industry was born. And if everyone's high frequency, nobody's weak. Therefore, they will have no profit. And so they then pulled all of the linen sheets, the copper, and all of the Tartarian buildings down. So old world buildings that have geometrical patterns and sequences are very healing to the body.
Did we just find Antarctica? And was it before there was ice. This is so crazy. I dive into old maps and I found a 1547 map that, I don't know, you tell me, comment, let me know what you think, but it's really interesting. Look, here, I'll zoom out so you can check out the whole map. But at the bottom, they show land all the way across. Shoot me a message in the comments and I'll throw you a link to this. It's crazy. You'll want to check this out. I mean, look at this. Check out that bird. Yes, look at that. Carrying an elephant. Woo! First time I've seen that actually on maps, and I see a lot of crazy stuff on maps. You got a huge grasshopper right here. And then there's all kinds of different, creatures and beings on the map. I mean, I could spend hours and hours and hours on this. Like, you got Brazil right here. Did you know there's a different Brazil, like the high Brazil or the Brasilia region, which was a different place? So crazy. Anyways, just thought I'd share this. More to come. Please check out my subscription channel as well. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this. And till next time.
Did you know that a man with an umbrella may have accidentally fueled the biggest conspiracy theory in American history? November 22nd, 1963, it was a bright, sunny day in Dallas, not a cloud in the sky. As President Kennedy's motorcade approached Dealey Plaza, crowds lined the streets waving and cheering, but one man stood out. Louis Stephen Witt held a black umbrella on this perfect day. He positioned himself directly in the path where the shots would ring out. As Kennedy's limousine drew near, Witt opened his umbrella and began pumping it up and down. The timing was chilling. His movements matched exactly with the first gunshot. While the president was being shot, Witt continued his strange umbrella dance. Then chaos erupted. People screamed, ran, dove for cover. But Witt? He calmly sat down on the curb like nothing happened. For 15 years, conspiracy theorists went wild. Was he signaling the shooter? Finally, in 1978, Witt testified before Congress with a shocking explanation. He was protesting Kennedy's father's support of Hitler before World War II. One bizarre protest created decades of conspiracy theories.
Ancient civilizations were far more advanced than we thought. First, let's talk about the ancient Egyptians. This is the Orion's Belt, a star constellation. Is it a coincidence that it perfectly lines up with the pyramids of Giza? Now, what's crazy to me is that the speed of light and the altitude of the pyramids are the same number. It's also mind-blowing that the pyramids line up with the motherboard of a modern computer. It's also shocking that ancient cave drawings have depictions of light bulbs. So what if this is a proof that
there's a theory that the Bermuda Triangle, you know what it is? It's that little triangle. Well, it's a big triangle in Bermuda
where everyone gets lost.
If they travel onto or they enter this area, they go missing.
Fact.
People say they travel to a next dimension. Just something happens and they just go missing.
Mm-hmm.
The theory is crystals.
What?
There's a theory that there's crystals underneath, or a giant amount of crystals underneath the Bermuda Triangle specifically.
Oh, nah. That's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Like that shit. No, that's why.
So, but before continuing, I wanted to warn you guys. Phones were being spied on by a blue radio app. Click on this icon, then on more. If you see it, delete it immediately. This is actually real.
Yeah.
If you take a crystal and you use there's like a electromagnetic reader.
Mm-hmm.
It can pick up different frequencies depending on which crystal is there, and like it has different sets of powers.
Yeah.
Now, the reason people like take crystals and use it for their powers and blah blah is because they believe they can use that to channel like different energies, different frequency, right?
Oh, really?
What if like the natural formation there just so happen it's a lot, and what happens with that, it kind of conflicts with our freaking reality.
Yeah.
And that's why all this weird shit happens. That's why planes go missing. That's why people go missing on boats. And that's why it became the Bermuda Triangle. What if that area is just specifically surrounded by freaking crystals, bro?
Yeah. But is it 100% that actual people go missing?
Yeah.
Like they never like came back?
That's what it is, bro. That's what it is.
So where the fuck do they go?
Nobody knows.
You're not saying the shape affects us, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Have you ever wondered why everything around you is a cube? Prisons, schools, offices, homes, all square, all boxed in. Ever ask why? Because cubes trap energy. Ancient civilizations knew this. That's why their temples, their homes, never square. Their roofs pointed to the sky, allowing energy to flow. They understood something we've been made to forget. If you could astral project into a prison, you'd see it, feel it. The energy, stagnant, suffocated, unable to escape. That's the point. Control, containment, compression. Now look around you. Look at your walls. Your city skyline. A grid of squares, a world of boxes. Do you think that's by accident?
It does seem sketchy.
See? The ancients built for the mind. They understood that your environment shapes your thinking. You surround people with beauty, with complexity, with wonder, and they think bigger, dream bigger. But if you surround them with lifeless boxes, you limit them. You keep them small. Everything we see molds our minds.
This is
Did you know the Great Pyramid of Giza might be a power plant? Some believe it was built by a lost civilization or even aliens. The materials used, like conductive granite, could harness energy. Could the pyramids' layout align with the Earth's magnetic fields? This theory suggests they were massive energy generators. Even more intriguing, some claim this tech is kept secret. Could global elites know about this ancient technology? Imagine if the pyramids hold a hidden source of energy. This lost knowledge could change our understanding of history. What if we could unlock the secrets of the Great Pyramid? Join the quest to uncover the mysteries of this ancient wonder. Could the Great Pyramid be more than just a tomb? Let's find out.
Does anyone want to tell me how in 1927 Universal Studios came up with this picture of the world? When the first picture of the world wasn't available until the 1960s through NASA? Almost 40 years later? How did Universal Studios know that this is what the world looked like? Especially from space, when we hadn't been to space yet. Does anyone know? Anyone want to guess?
The reason for lying about the shape of the Earth and making it into a ball is because when you turn it into a ball, you can cut off any land you want and keep it hidden. For example, we will take this map, we will cut out a piece, and we will take this flat piece and wrap it around a ball. Now this is where I tell you that this is all there is. You can only go to destinations that are on the globe because you now believe that's all there is. But we still have all the land that I cut off earlier. It's seriously that easy, and when you consider it, it really is a plausible reason to lie.
Nobody knows this. Mario, why is he a plumber?
Why?
Crazy.
There's lore?
Crazy.
There's lore?
Check this out. Japan,
Yeah.
right? They released the NES or SNES.
Yeah.
Mario being one of the first games ever, right?
Okay.
Why is Mario a plumber?
I don't know.
And why was Mario red and yellow? Check this out. During the time they made the NES, they really wanted to influence people into communism. And red and yellow being the original colors of Mario was there to influence,
like
subconsciously for people to become part of this communist mindset. And the number one target they were trying to convince were the blue-collared workers. That's why Mario is a plumber. It makes no other sense to make Mario a plumber.
Yeah, it's so random.
Makes no sense.
It's random. It's super random.
Because they wanted it to relate to the blue-collared workers and get them on board, bro. Isn't that crazy?
Yo,
everything has a reason.
Everything is a lie at this point, man.
Everything has a reason. And then eventually, like, when that passed, they changed the colors. Because Mario should be yellow and red right now, but he's not anymore. Because that kind of, like, I guess, era of them trying to do that changed. And they went into democracy, obviously.
What the fuck? Nah, everything's a lie, bro. Because what I thought...
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Neil Armstrong's final secret is out. We're not talking about the official story of one giant leap. We're talking about what happened after he said that line. Whispers of a lost transmission, a hidden warning, and a man who lived in fear of what he saw. Why did the first man on the moon refuse to give interviews? Before he passed away, his carefully guarded silence finally broke, and the truth he supposedly revealed is more bizarre and more terrifying than any conspiracy theory. Why the hero hid. On July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped off the Eagle lander and onto the dusty surface of the moon. His words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," were instantly etched into history. Over 500 million people watched the grainy black and white image. He was, in that moment, the pinnacle of human achievement. Well, not literally. But here's the kicker. For a man who had just become the most celebrated human alive, Armstrong did something baffling. He retreated. While other astronauts like Buzz Aldrin embraced the spotlight, wrote books, and became public figures, Armstrong went in the opposite direction. He left NASA just 2 years after the mission in 1971. He took a quiet job as a professor of aerospace engineering at the University of Cincinnati. He bought a farm in rural Ohio. He stopped giving interviews. He stopped signing autographs. To put it mildly, this was weird. This wasn't just a man enjoying his privacy. To many, it looked like a man hiding. The media, the public, everyone wanted a piece of the first man on the moon. And his refusal to play the part of the global hero started the first whispers. What was he afraid of? You see, the public expects its heroes to act like heroes, to go on talk shows, to relive the glory, to tell the story over and over. Armstrong's silence was a vacuum, and human nature abhors a vacuum. Into that void, theories began to rush in. People became crazy about the idea that he wasn't quiet because he was humble. He was quiet because he was ordered to be. What many overlooked was the sheer pressure of that moment. Armstrong was an engineer, a test pilot. His entire life was about calculations, procedure, and ice-cold control. He flew the X-15, a rocket plane, to the edge of space over 200,000 feet up, traveling at speeds exceeding 3,900 miles per hour. This was a man who dealt in facts, not fame. When he was nearly eliminated during the Gemini 8 mission, when his capsule spun wildly out of control, his heart rate barely spiked. He just calmly fixed the problem and brought the ship home. That's the man who went to the moon.
How do you get 30 feet of sedimentation on this tiny island in just 700 years? It looks like a much longer period that would be required to create that depth of sedimentation.
So how much time do you think is Robert Schoch declining because of the criticism that he received about the Temple of the Sphinx?
Deposition of sediment. It's the deposition of sediment.
Over time.
Over time. And what we're looking at with these Easter Island heads, I was fortunate to know, there we are, and I was just going to say, I was fortunate to know that it goes down 30 feet underground, this enormous thing.
Right.
And the issue is, on this tiny island, how much, if this thing is only 700 years old, which is something that archaeologists often say, 700 or 1,000 years old.
Did you know that the whole world seemingly melted all around us not too far in our past? And that the melting of the entire world supposedly, allegedly, is closer to us than was closer to the building of the Ark? And this will get crazier in a minute, but anywhere you look on any continent on this earth, you will see melted buildings, melted mountains, everything is melted. Why? Why is this not documented anywhere? Well, I did find one documentation I'm about to show you. Probably the most overlooked documentation to ever exist. And coming from the most important document to ever exist. Even just pay attention to Sudan's pyramids all being charred. Charred by something. You remember when Jesus said to be more tolerable in that day for Sodom and Gomorrah than for anywhere else? Anywhere else where they reject his word. But like I said, there is one mention of everything on this earth melting. And we don't give it much thought. But the one mention of this scenario that we have in all literature says, the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth and also the works that are therein shall be burned up. Let me know if you can guess what book that came from. And also on the complete other side of the spectrum, in 5887 when the map was created, there was no ice in the south. You know, the South Pole? Not only were the map makers seemingly sure of this, they were so sure they put animals down there. Where are the penguins at, though? I don't see those. It wasn't until more modern history where they put ice down there. I wonder if something big happened. Kind of like it seems like something else really big happened. Questioning your reality? This video right here, it'll help. But
I was woke up really out of me what sleep I had by this noise.
I was too frightened really to think. I shall never forget it.
I got panicky, you know.
I had a camera with me. I was taking it down to my sister who wanted to borrow it. And, well, as I say, I just had the camera with me, and pure luck, I just undid it and took a picture.
Now, this documentary was absolutely surreal to film, walking the same streets, going to the same places where all of this phenomena unfolded from the 1960s all the way to the present day. And even our old stomping grounds where I kind of grew up with me and my family, and some of the strange things that we have witnessed living there as well, and speaking to others that are currently there as well, with also a paranormal side with strange black figures and weird things moving around near military bases, the woodlands, lights in the sky, things darting around, strange noises. It was incredible, mate. So go to the funny red play button thing, link in my bio on the TikTok page, and check this whole video out. You don't want to miss it. It was absolutely incredible. And also, I want to say thank you to Fran for donating. Buy me a coffee, man. I appreciate you so much, man. It really helps out because a lot of the stuff that I pay towards fuel go into these areas, equipment and so forth, you know. Every little helps to go back into the projects that I'm planning for 2026. So big documentaries and things of that nature are on the horizon, and you guys just basically help make this magic happen, man. And I couldn't be any more grateful if I tried. Thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoy. Go check it out, mate. You don't want to miss it.
Do you recall, not long ago, when you walked on the sidewalk? Innocent, remember, all we did was care for each other, but the night was warm.
Es que estamos viendo unos ovnis, eh?
Yeah, there's some orbits right here.
Mira.
That's weird. And there's three
That's
of them.
weird.
Look, there's three of them. One, two.
It makes no sense.
Huh? Sebastián.
It is.
Uno traje el otro.
What the fuck?
And there's three of them. What the fuck?
Espérate. Nacho, mira, saluda.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Me ahogo, puñeta.
Está ahogándose aquí con una uva.
Es que me estoy espetando las uvas. Estoy cubriendo todas las bases. Todas las bases estoy cubriendo.
Spotlights that they shine in the sky.
Holy shit.
I mean, I don't know what that is. That's the hell, man.
Ah, oh, wow. Ah, mm. Ah.